A very good evening to our viewers. Welcome to Elite TV, and you're watching Elite TV's Open Debate in English. I'm your host, Chongtham Amrita. The topic that we are going to discuss today is titled Amit Shah 11 months later. Union Home Minister Amit Shah's visit to Manipur last time was on May 29, 2023. That came 26 days after the onset of the ethnic violence. It was the peak of violence in Manipur during that time. And it was many deemed as untimely that his visit came so many days later. Despite a 3-day stay in Manipur, his efforts to quell the unrest proved very ineffective. And during the subsequent press conference, his nervous demeanor or lack of information was also evident. He attributed the violence to a High Court ruling on the scheduled tribe status, and his suggestion for online classes to be held clashed with the continued internet ban at that time. That showed that he was very much lack of aware of the situation at that time in Manipur. While stressing the importance of Manipur's integrity, his announcement of helicopter services from More to Chorchandpur and Aizawl bypassing Imphal, even though it could be interpreted as something as a beneficiary, it was seen as something to bypass Imphal and also fostering physical separation from the valley rather than unification. This outlook from the Home Minister can be interpreted as someone having no deep understanding of the ethnic conflict in Manipur, and as such, he fails to provide actionable solutions that can be met to bring peace in the state. As of today, his visit still resonates with ignorance. He comes 11 months later after his promise of earlier statement that he said that he would return in 15 days with a solution. And this also shows a lack of effort to genuinely connect with the people of Manipur. To debate on this matter, our panelists will join us through online media. Our first panelist for tonight is Ojai Ibungochoubi, Editor, Manipur, Executive Editor, Manipur Mail. Welcome to Open Debate, Ojai Ibungochoubi. Our second panelist for tonight is Jinine Laishramcha, Assistant Professor, University of Suwon, South Korea. Welcome to Open Debate, Jinine. And our third panelist for tonight is NJ Shantikumar, Professor of English, Hungkou, Delin University, Taiwan. Welcome to Open Debate to all of our panelists. I'll first start with Ojai Ibungochoubi. We have Amit Shah has visited Manipur now after his promise to return to Imphal, to Manipur after 15 days to solve the Manipur crisis. And now he has come back after 11 months, and he still has come back without any solution. If we hear his speech today, there was no mention even of the current crisis even. So what's your take on his visit today? First of all, we'll start with that.
Amrita, good evening, and thank you for inviting me. Let me sum up in one line that the present government at Delhi is the BJP, and the government also in Manipur is BJP, as I already I continuously mention whenever we have a discussion with you. The Home Minister giving a statement that he would be back after 15 days. And I think he's back in Manipur for the campaign almost after 9 months of his assurance that he will be back in Manipur. The government's duty primarily is to protect the lives and property of every single citizen of this country. This is what we should understand. The primary duty of the government is to protect the life, or I should say lives and properties of every single citizen of this country, which the state government and the central government, which I must very precisely say that the Home Ministers of the state and the center, they have completely failed. The failure can be attributed to 3 primary reasons. First, they do not have the political will. They do not have the political will. I think this is something that I have been saying, and we have to understand. If at all the government had a will, they would have at least made an attempt. And second, they have no political acumen. they have not understood, or they have refrained themselves, they have stayed away from understanding what the issue is. And the third, they have no wisdom. The failure of the government, as I said, there is no political will, they have no political acumen, and finally, they have no wisdom. And in such a situation, the people of Manipur today experience a very, very dark phase of our own history, where in a few days we would be compelled, we would be exercising our franchise as a constitutional duty and a constitutional right to exercise our franchise in a couple of days, in very short time. The moral strength of the political parties in Manipur is really under a dark cloud, whether the people of Manipur have been taken for a ride by the political parties, number one, and particularly by the political party which is at the helm of power. This is what we have been saying, or I've been saying in my editorial comment. The revisit of Amit Shah, his complete silence on what had been happening or what has been happening, is, I think, one of the darkest days of the history of Indian polity, not Manipur, but of the Indian polity as a whole. The government has to explain to the people of Manipur, not only Manipur, the government has to explain to the people of the country and to the entire world what precisely has been happening in Manipur, which they have not done. That is the biggest tragedy. And very surprisingly, the kind of violence which comes out off and on at regular intervals, the complete absence of law and order, as I have already stated in my earlier comment, that the rule of law is to be tested during the most difficult times. And the government has to prove that it exists during difficult times. Having an administration at the normal time is a very easy task. However, to prove that a government exists has to be proven during the most difficult times, which they have not. And that is the present scenario. And before we get into what is the current trend of electioneering, law and order, his lack of commitment, not having to say anything, the struck silence of the Home Minister, and of course the complete silence of the Prime Minister, who is in his Man Ki Baat on a regular basis, and of course at the national level, international level, he continues to give speeches, or rather give promises, not having mentioned anything about Manipur. I think it is one of the biggest tragedies. I think I would make my opening remark, and then let me come back to the second part of our discussion as to how we look at the current trend of electioneering process in Manipur. Amrita.
Indeed, you mentioned a very interesting point, in which is you have been saying that in our previous episodes also regarding this silence, this crisis, and also the way the government, both the central and the state, has been handling or not even handling, because the most important thing to solve such a deep-rooted ethnic conflict is to first understand it and the causes of how it has started. And only then, and also in context, particularly to the context of Northeast and even in Manipur, because some of the situations that can be proved successful in other parts of the country may not necessarily apply the same way to Manipur. So in order for it to be solved, we, especially the central leaders, need to have a very deeper understanding. They need to talk with the stakeholders, and so it looks like the central leadership has no interest, or maybe we don't see that, at least, that they, and it looks like they have no interest in understanding it and thereby not solving it. That is the opening remarks from Oja and Ibungochoubi. I'd like to move on to Oja Jinine. We have heard in Amit Shah's speech today that he delivered amongst a very huge crowd. He mentioned of space centers. He mentioned of the number of crores of toilets built in the country. He mentioned about gas connections. He mentioned about tap water connections, also electricity connections in the country. He mentioned regarding poverty upliftment, which of course are all good things to be taken up by the country for the benefit of the poor, for the benefit of the people who are needy. There is no mention of the Manipur crisis today in his speech at all. He mentioned the Meitei and the Meitei Pangal conflict of the previous times, the Naga and Kuki conflict even, but no mention of the conflict that has been plaguing Manipur for the past almost a year. So just what's your take on this? How do you see this do you think that his coming and all of this that we have mentioned coming 11 months later, and do you think he is deliberately insulting the people of Manipur with such remarks, such rhetorics? Oja Jinine.
Yes, he is. By looking at the gravity of the incidents happening in Manipur and the response that he made. So, to me, I just remember some vocabulary like repression, hypocrisy, and humiliation. So it's very unfortunate. So from the perspective of the human rights, the relationship between the people and the government, particularly New Delhi, because they have power, they have the resources, but the manner they are showing their response and the attitude and the behavior is examples, demonstration of the human rights violation. Because the relationship between the people and the government is that it's a kind of guarantee, it's a kind of contract. Sometimes we can call it a social contract between the people and the government. So fundamental responsibility is to protect and respect the human rights. For example, human rights means life, liberty, equality, and dignity, including the people of Manipur and the people of Meitei. But over the period, let's say, it's going to be 1 year. We haven't seen any positive kind of response from the central government to protect our life, liberty, equality, and dignity. So the contract that signifies the guarantee to protect the individual rights, citizen rights, from that kind of angle, we say that this is a very obvious act of gross human rights violation. And of course repression, and I feel that through militarization, in Manipur, we have experienced a kind of militarization phases, and this is, I think, the second phase of the militarization. And the first phase was during the Congress, that's earlier 70s, 80s, 90s, and that time, we encountered a very difficult time that encounters killing using the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and the huge deployment of military manpower. And second phase is, since May, that, again, a large number of sending, that a large number of military manpower to Manipur, deployment of large number of armed forces. That's second phase of militarization. And including this, that militarize innocent people, civilians, because the situation, the defenseless villagers, defenseless youth, they are made to pick up arms. So militarization, one segment of the militarization is that, that innocent people, civilians are picking up arms. That's also a very crucial element of militarization, which in the future will bring really adverse consequences. So lastly, the attitude and the behavior of the government, especially New Delhi, is the overt gross human rights violation. That's something very, very unfortunate. That just infringing that those provisions, those beautiful articles of the Indian Constitution. So to me, that's a very gross human rights violation.
Indeed, it can be said that what's happening in Manipur and what the people of the Manipur is facing is no less than human rights violation. Indeed, because there have been so many casualties, a lot of people displaced from their homes, and not just that. You mentioned about militarization, because Manipur throughout history have been facing militarization, not just because of it being a border state, but because of the status of the law and order since a lot of years ago. And even from the past year, the huge number of military personnel's presence in the state, because it doesn't give a very peaceful look, it doesn't give a very calm look to the state because of the presence of such security personnel in the state, because it does translate into the state as being having a lack of liberty, as the citizens not enjoying any kind of freedom or even dignity, as you mentioned. Indeed, a very strong point, and that needs to be tackled, and that needs to be brought to the forefront of all the discussion if the peace needs to be brought. And that also needs to have been mentioned, at least to have been acknowledged in the speech of Amit Shah today regarding the crisis that's happening in Manipur. Now moving on to Shantikumar. In his speech today, Amit Shah's speech, he said that the current regime, the current government, the current Modi-led government in the country is very much kind. That's what he wanted to say towards the Northeast. He mentioned that in the last 10 years, Narendra Modi has visited the Northeast more than 60 times, almost 70 times. That's what he was trying to say, that the Congress have completely avoided or neglected the Northeast, but it is their government that has been trying to bridge that gap for the past 70 years, almost 75 years, and they have been trying to bridge that gap by the Prime Minister and on the account of him coming to the Northeast or visiting the states of the Northeast almost 70 times in the past 10 years. He tried to emphasize on that. But where was the Prime Minister when the state of Manipur, that belongs to the Northeast, if he didn't forget, was burning for the past almost 11 months. So what was that he was trying to, was he trying to win the sentiments of the people by saying that the Prime Minister visited almost 70 times? What's your take?
I think I think in his in Union Home Minister Amit Shah's speech, it's about 18 minutes today, I think he never mentioned with clear cut about the problems and about the problems happening in Manipur, as well as no comment, no clear cut comment how to solve the problem. But he was mostly talking about how many times the Prime Minister had come to the Northeast, and how many crores of rupees, the central government, the BJP government, has invested in the Northeast, even in Manipur. And a lot in his talk, he was mostly accusing the Congress party. For the last, Congress was ruling in Manipur for the last, he said 10 years, but it should be 15 years, I think. 15 years of Congress rule, and he was mentioning even CM's Ibobi's name, and he was talking like, oh, they have done very badly in the last 10 years. But the question is, yes, I agree. They have so he has visited Northeast more than the previous government. Yes, more than the Congress government, and also they have invested a lot of money in the Northeast. Also in the in Manipur. Yes, that's right. But the question is, is the central government truly interested in investing in the Northeast, or is the central government compelled or forced by the situation happening in the eastern countries, like in Myanmar, like in Cambodia, and in Vietnam, and other countries in the Southeast Asian countries, mostly because of the presence of China's impact. So I think that is one reason why India was forced to focus on the Northeast. Otherwise, certain problems might have come, in the future if India doesn't take care the Northeast states, right, timely. And I think that is one reason why I think the BJP government was forced to focus on the Northeast development, so that they can keep the people of the Northeast from the separatist movement. We have how many separatist movement we have in Manipur from the 1960s, early 1960s. So it has been running for a long time, and so actually, if China really comes close, and it militarized in these countries. So the only way for India to defend that is to militarize, as a Professor Brother Jinine just mentioned right now, the militarization. And why how come the small conflict between two communities couldn't be solved on time, even though they have sent more than 70,000 armies in Manipur? Why not? Why they cannot? So the main reason for sending the 70,000 army forces is not really to control, or not really to finish the conflict, but a kind of militarization. I agree with Professor Jinine just mentioned right now. So this might be one of the few reasons why they focused in the last few years, in the last few years. But the question is, if the BJP central government knows what happened during the Congress regime, 15 years of rule in Manipur, if they knew the things, what they have been doing in the last 7 years in Manipur, 7 years BJP rule, and the 10 years in the center, what they have been doing, if they knew these were the problem created by the Congress government. Here, I'm not really supporting Congress. Of course, they have done a lot of problems. They also did a lot of problems. But the question is, if they knew what they have been doing without, so for example, Amit Shah also mentioned about taking out the FMR, the free movement regime. He mentioned about that, and he also mentioned about the fencing. But in the last 10 years, the people of Manipur CSOs were shouting about to measure accurately the border area and to fence. They didn't do what they have been doing. So all this is what he was talking is mostly focused on the election campaign. Not really he came to give some package, or I didn't see any package given, and I didn't hear any package mentioned, and I also didn't hear any he even didn't, Amit Shah even didn't mention about the more than 200 lives lost in this conflict. He never mentioned about that. And he never mentioned about more than 5,000 houses burned down. And also never mentioned about more than 60,000 displacement. He never mentioned about those, and they never mentioned about those things. But Amit Shah only mentioned about those problems happened during the Congress rule or in the previous government, but never mentioned about, and also never mentioned about how to solve this present crisis. He never mentioned about that. He never gave any clear-cut message to the people today about how to close, how to finish this conflict. He only mentioned like "Aane wala din mein," in the coming days, And the PM Modi is trying to talk to the parties, two communities. Simply, it means Meiteis and the Kuki communities. But Anewala never comes to us, you know. I mean, for the last 11 months, and it's going to be 12 months. Why they cannot solve this small conflict between these two communities? It is very simple. So what kind of hidden agenda they have there in the center? Also, they are not transparent. So in his but people know, most of the people in Manipur know now, in the last, because of the experiences they have in the last more than 11 months. So I don't think his rhetorical statement, his nice statements and speech could influence too much. But it's hard to say. It's unpredictable. Sometimes people of Manipur are very emotional. You know, they may be led by emotion. They may be led by wrong message, you know, wrong package, wrong message, or wrong slides, whatever. So it's hard to say. But I don't think those educated people, those who understood Hindi, or those who can analyze, who can see the present situation and the causes and what will happen in the future. I think most of the intellectuals and most of the educated adults and most of the educated youths would just follow his rhetorical speech. I don't think so. Let me just keep this way.
Yeah, that the people, the more educated and people who could understand Hindi, or maybe it would be translated into our native languages and in English in the papers tomorrow. So for all to hear and read for what he had to say to the people of Manipur in his very most awaited visit to Manipur. And indeed, you made a very good point. The recent scrapping of the free movement regime, a tragedy such huge as the one we are facing, had to happen for them to scrape FMR. It had to happen for them to look into the border fencing. It's not really because they were looking after the integrity or the well-being of the people of the Northeast, but a tragedy such as this had to happen for them to pay such attention to the Northeast, and that indeed is very, very disappointing as a citizen of Manipur. In fact, because if they had the will to do it, it could have done much earlier than this, and a lot of this could have been avoided even. Now moving on.
I think.
Sure.
Can I just add a few points?
Sure.
1 point. I think even, you know, taking out, scraping this FMR also not really to solve the conflict. It's not to solve the conflict. I don't think so. But it is also something to do with the Chinese influence in the
the
Eastern
geopolitical
and
the
also,
strategic influence.
Yes, very much to do with that. Not really thinking about our interests or the conflict or to finish the conflict.
Yeah,
no.
because it's election season, they can mention it as in their favor for the people of Manipur, for the benefits, so they can mention it either way, and it doesn't affect them in their speeches or in their actions. So now moving on to Oja Ibungochoubi, that Amit Shah, there is a desire with the people of Manipur there is a huge demand for the ST status, for the Meiteis to be included in the ST list, and this demand has been one of the very strong that has been coming at the forefront since the past year, even though the demand has been going on for a long time ago. So I just want, there was a desire for the people, for the Home Minister, because earlier in the Parliament, the Home Minister had said that this issue, this crisis, has been attributed to the High Court order on the ST demand, and he mentioned that because of that, this violence was sparked and this ethnic conflict, it blew off. So he did not even give any clarification regarding this, because it is incorrect. And do you think what was going on in his mind when he said that, and even after a long time he still did not clarify regarding that High Court statement, and nor did mention of the ST status that the people of Manipur want? So what's your take on that?
Amrita, let me make it very clear what I am thinking as of now. In the last 10 or 11 months, the political party as such, which is at the helm of power, the political power at the center and the state, as I have been saying, have no moral strength today in Manipur to say that they exist as a government. This is what we have to understand. The visit of Amit Shah, the Home Minister, can be viewed from two perspectives. One, from the perspective that the BJP in Manipur is in complete disarray. They have no moral strength, they have no political business, they have no political thoughts as to how they should be campaigning in this very Lok Sabha polls. The BJP has no point, they have no foundation as to how they will campaign, because the people are already very frustrated in Manipur. People are so angry, people are so frustrated. It is the anti-incumbency that we are talking about, the non-performance of the political party for the last 10 months or the 11 months. The visit of Amit Shah is to simply tell the people of Manipur, or rather the political party as BJP, the chief minister, saying that yes, I am coming here to say that we exist as a government, we exist as a party. I think this is for the first time that the chief minister of Manipur, the so-called the chief minister of Manipur, is not in a position or does not have the strength to lead a campaign in its own territory. I mean, we have to look at from the perspective, rather than making a flimsy, on very flimsy grounds of the present law and order. We have to understand the Home Minister came to Manipur as a show to the people that I visited Manipur, rather than coming with a commitment, fully understanding what Manipur needs today. If at all he had something to say, if at all, if he had something in his mind, not as the Home Minister, but as a simple citizen of this country. Amit Shah could have said something from his heart as a human being, as a citizen of this country, and his concerns for the people of Manipur, which was not at all visible today. It was such a normal formality, people receiving with forced smiles, forced presentations. I think if you just rewind the pictures that is being seen on the social media of that particular political party, even a child would understand. And at this very point of time, the people of Manipur should understand. And I know that I will be exercising my franchise, and many of my friends having said and having understood that many people would be abstaining, or rather they will not be going to the election, they will not be taking part in election. I have been saying that exercising your franchise, you have to perform your constitutional duty. By being angry and not exercising your franchise is one of the most illogical aspect of being a citizen. If you are angry, if you are frustrated, you should be able to express through the ballot, what you call the electronic voting machines today. If you are a citizen, I have already mentioned in my editorial comment that great leaders have fallen. Even the prime ministers in India, they have lost elections, we have seen. Even Mrs. Indira Gandhi lost elections. Even Atal Bihari Vajpayee lost elections. I mean, a lot of leaders lose elections. Even Rahul Gandhi lost elections in Amethi, though he got elected from Kerala in the last Lok Sabha polls. What I'm saying is, it is the duty of the citizens to exercise their franchise at this very crucial movement, at least to say that you are not happy at this point of time, and rather than abstaining, rather than not going to the polls, one should actively take part. We should expect both in the inner and outer. I was in Nagaland couple of, in fact I was just passing through Nagaland during the polls. A district, a political party, which I should say the NPF, they resign en masse. They resign from the political party. And many people, while resigning, do not mention the reason for resigning. They always say that for personal reasons or political reasons. If you see the resignation of the NPF of the Paren district, they say we are resigning for the reason to support one of the candidates. I will not mention because I will be influencing the political party. But if you look at it, and whatever you have seen, the churches have come out. They are not campaigning for a political party, but the churches have come out. Whereas not a single civil society, not a single religious institution in Manipur, they have not come out. In fact, if we look at our own history, if we look at our own social movement in Manipur, the silence of the intellectuals. As a journalist, we have been reporting what our academics say, we have been reporting what our intellectuals say. In fact, in the last 10 months, we have not been able to report or critically analyze so-called the thinkers of Manipur, so-called the academics of Manipur, because they have preferred silence rather than speaking. I think this is one thing that we should note very seriously. The silence of academics in Manipur, the silence of intellectuals in Manipur. There must be some reason why our CSOs, why our intellectuals, why our academics have stopped speaking or expressing their opinions. As a media person, we report what they say and then analyze and give our editorial perspective. In the last 10 months, in fact, I have failed to notice, I have failed to editorially comment how our intellectuals, how our academics are thinking at this very crucial time. The silence of our intellectuals, I would repeat, the silence of our academics is the darkest days of the state of Manipur. Is there a threat perception? Is there a compelling situation where somebody who speaks cannot speak? And in a democratic society where views, opinions are very important, people of Manipur have taken that decision not to speak. I think even sometimes when journalists like us are called to give our opinions, we are not experts, Amrita. We report what people say, we report events, and sometimes people say that journalists are experts on that topic. Certainly not. We review, we report what is happening, and at some point in time I feel very sad that we cannot come together as a society, and in fact the civil societies, the academics, the intellectuals, and to openly say what we are feeling, what we are thinking. I think that must be one reason, that must be one particular topic that we also should be focusing. I'm not talking about the elections, but post-elections also we can discuss. The very visit of the Home Minister, I would say a kind of an enacted drama, and you can particularly see the fanfare on the road or at the airport. I think I should say it is simply a shame, or I should say that it is a slap on the face of the people of Manipur, that rather than trying to understand, rather than bringing about a solution, one has to say, if somebody had, you can't blame my grandfather, you can't blame my father for certain thing. The reason is why I am here is to perform my duty. The BJP or the present government should be able to say that this is what we are thinking to solve the problem, which they don't think. I think they have a solution at their hand, because as I said, they do not seem to have the political acumen, they do not seem to have that particular wisdom, and finally they have no political will. And to a person, to a political party which do not have the political will, how will the people trust? I think this is also one particular issue that has been so-called the undercurrent in the last couple of days. I meet people around and I speak to a couple of my friends, my seniors and my juniors. When the government has no solution, when the government has not taken up any initiative, when the government has not spelled out what they want to do, I think that is where the maturity of the people of Manipur, the electorates will have to definitely, translate their thoughts in this particular election. I think this is what also I have heard some of my friends. I think I am also getting some messages in the WhatsApp. Somebody might be watching your discussion or our discussion live. I will see later. What I should be saying at this very point of time is our own state, our own people today are not confused. We have a commitment to our own state, and let us not get fooled, let us not get, or rather let us not be bought by political parties. I think this is what we should say, that we are not for sale, for simple political gimmicks. I think we should be able to convey that message during this election, Amrita.
Yes, indeed, it's a very strong point, Ibungochoubi. I did not want to interrupt you because you gave a very important message, and in fact, all those who will be watching us live, or maybe who will be watching the recording later, I think they really need to I do want the people to get the message that you're giving regarding the power of the people to exercise their votes, and also you mentioned a very strong point, and I think this has been very much relevant and prevalent since the past 5-10 years in Manipur, especially the silence of the academics, because their wisdom do influence a lot of people, and not in a good or a bad way, but they do give that little moment, that little grains of wisdom, and with that the people can choose and who to vote for. So there is a lot of layers to what you said, and I do believe that people who will be watching this do take this with more intention to learn from our panelists. And I do apologize to my other two panelists because I give more time to Ibungochoubi, because in context with the election and the context with Manipur, there has been a very important message. So there has been a lot to say regarding the democratic situation in Manipur, because it's not just about election, because elections may come and go, but the people of the Manipur, the voters, we do suffer from lack of political will, from lack of good leadership. So it is up to us to decide where do we want to be in the next 5 years or even longer. So on that note, I'd like to move on to Jinine. So since we have mentioned a few more aspects regarding Amit Shah's visit, I would like to ask you that in the last visit, Amit Shah, when he came to Manipur on May 29, 2023, just before his visit, there was a huge firing in Manipur. It was huge firing and shootouts from all over the corners of the Imphal Valley and the Imphal foothills. There was a lot of firing going on, and today, before his visit, after long days of quiet, there was fresh firing again. There was some casualties even, and the Kuki militants started firing, and the village volunteers also retaliated. So why this sudden firing again, starting just on the onset of the Home Minister visiting the state to campaign for elections? How do you interpret this, Jinine?
Well, I think that can be a coincidence, or that may be deliberate triggering. And I think that's not a big deal for me. My concern, my central crucial point is that, New Delhi has power, so they are capable to end such kind of shooting incidents, or such kind of violence. They can finish anytime, they can end anytime, because they are capable. New Delhi is capable to end this conflict, or whatever we call it, crisis or violence. But they don't do this because there are maybe some reasons. Maybe one small segment is that New Delhi wants people of Manipur, particularly Meitei, wants to make weaker than the weakest. So to me, just observing the present situation, I think particularly Meitei community are the weakest. So that is one reason that New Delhi is acting or behaving with hypocrisy and the intimidation and the repression, because there may be one small advantage when they deal with Beijing, China. That's one. And number two is, very insignificant of, couple of MPs to parliament space. So very small representation in the parliamentary space. That's the one reason that New Delhi is not respecting, or they are not acting properly to respect human rights of Manipuri people. And number three, the politicians, especially the politicians who are sitting in this assembly, who are holding powers, they have sold out their dignities. They have sold out everything in the name of patriotism. And after that, along with the politicians, the voters, not 100%, may not be majority, but I think half of the Meitei population, have already sold out our dignities. So just seeing, our submission and just see our weakness, New Delhi is not giving us the proper respect. They are not giving the proper response, because we are just becoming kind of sycophants, begging all the time, and as I told you before, that sold out everything, our dignities. So that is rather very important concern, and other shootout incidents, then maybe drama, sometimes maybe deliberate plan, I don't know, maybe they are making this kind of noises to confuse people. And one thing is that in such situation, the responsibility of the New Delhi and the state government, and also responsibility of the from the sections of we Manipuri is very crucial, is very important. But I think this time half of the population, Manipuri people, I think they are realizing the difficulty, challenges, and they feel like changing something towards a meaningful electoral kind of practice. But still there are some population that still selling out their dignities in the name of maybe they are giving their justification why they are selling out their dignities, but at the same time, and I think that each and every one of, especially we Meiteis, every single of us, advocating our patriotism, that we love Manipur. So when we advocate our patriotism, but we forget some important characters of the patriotism, and we see patriotism regarding the there is adverse party to the Meitei, for example, say Jinkuki or say Naga, and in that situation we demonstrate our patriotism. But patriotism is that just having common sense, using our rationality to vote for the qualified and those true person that who can do for the Manipur future. But in such very critical time, the voters, maybe 50% of the voters, they don't exercise their patriotism. Just thinking for a better future, because their behaviors, that reacting or responding to the electoral exercise is very important. So we should remember patriotism when in such kind of crisis period. We should remember and ask ourselves, what is patriotism? Patriotism is not something I make noise against the Kuki or against the Naga. That's not only a segment of the patriotism. There are other segments, other parts, components of the patriotism, that we should avoid corruption, and we should practice free and fair election, and we should enjoy electing a perfect and a competent person to build our future Manipur. And such elements also a very important component to the patriotism.
Yes, indeed, because elections, after all, at the end of the day, it's all about numbers. And from the perspective of the candidates, the party that want to win these elections, they would ultimately go down to the numbers, which places would give them that number, and then they will strategize accordingly. And from that perspective, Manipur, since having just 2 seats to the Lok Sabha, it seems as if the central leadership does not take the state that seriously in their matters, and hence we face that kind of treatment from the central leadership. But from the perspective of the voters, we need to exercise that right to choose as our representative. That's what Oja Jinine has been saying, that is also part of patriotism, because a lot of people, they do not turn out to vote, but if they are someone who is patriotic of the state, they really need to exercise their votes and their franchise. So very good message. So moving on to Dr. Shantikumar, and I'd like to hold one more round for this before we end. So I'd like to just quickly wrap up the questions, and if possible, do please give your statements in a very 2-3 minutes. So Dr. Shantikumar, the 2 seats in Manipur, it could be very crucial, or it may not be, but we do not know from the perspective of the central leadership or from the mainland India. But the Prime Minister, who was silent for almost 10 months, he recently spoke about Manipur to an interview for Assam Tribune. He mentioned about Manipur. He said that this partnership between the central and the state government was the reason behind the peace returning back to Manipur. Of course, it was met with a lot of criticism. So do you think that he finally spoke out because he feels that the 2 seats from Manipur is going to be a kingmaker to his numbers, this numbers game of the elections? So what do you think in this? Because he did really want to come back into office for a 3rd term, and maybe the 2 seats in Manipur could ultimately be something of significance after all. What do you think?
Yeah, finally, after 11 months, he just mentioned about Manipur, especially regarding the 2 MPs from Manipur. It shows, his statement shows that they are not really, they think they may not win like before, like the 2nd term. So the 3rd term might be they can change the difference. They can see the difference or the losing in many states might be. So, to make up those laws, to be in power for the 3rd time, I think they have to consider even the smallest state like Manipur, even though we have 2 MPs, but because of a few MPs lost, if they cannot, come to the power, there will be a big setback for them. So I think that might be one reason why Manipur has suddenly become so important to the eyes of the central government and the Modi. But I think from this also people, the people of Manipur should know that it is really because of his real concern or interest to solve the conflict, or to raise the people's life, or to help the people. maybe not. It is also based on, it is also because of the election, coming election. So after tomorrow, the election will be held in Manipur. So this might be another trick, another strategy BJP plays. You know, they are very good in playing such a strategic games. So that's why they could win in 20 before in the second term, and so they are again playing the same tricks to win again this time. But I am not sure if Modi will be, you know, prime minister for the third time. But even he becomes for the third time, but they won't get as many as
the numbers that they used to get.
The number
before.
will be, of course, the number will decrease. So I would say this way.
Okay, now for the last round, I would like to discuss about the recently released manifesto. So I'm moving on to Ibungochoubi, and then I'll quickly come to our panelists for this round. So we have seen that recently, I think it was released just a day ago, the Sankalpa Patra that they have released. There was no mention of Manipur. Not even a word of Manipur, no mention of NRC. So yeah, so the central leadership who seems to love the Northeast, who have visited in the Northeast almost 70 times in the last 10 years, in such a critical juncture that the Northeast is facing as regarding Manipur. There is no mention of such. The only mention was just the border will be more stricter, and that there will be peace in the Northeast, but no mention of Manipur. So they are shying away from Manipur, like trying to put some things under the rug. So there is no roadmap for peace. So what's your comment on the recently released BJP manifesto?
Amrita, if there is a claim by saying that I have visited your house 20 times, does it make a significance when you did not need me? So one visit that I come to your house when you need is more important than coming to your house 20 times. And I think the Prime Minister, the central government, was required to visit only once, rather than talking about 70 visits in the past, which is now doing the round in the social media today after the speech by the Home Minister in Manipur today. One of the, I wouldn't say one of the jokes, but in the lighter vein, some of the comments coming is there are many doctors available. However, those doctors will have to be available when the patients need.
Exactly.
So the doctors are needed when patients arrive. Manipur was sick, or rather Manipur is now sick for some time. We needed somebody who could provide the treatment in the form of political solution.
Yes.
Talking today about Manipur is the repetition of what we have been saying the last 10 months, Amrita, because there is nothing new. I cannot say anything new because I am repeating the same old thing when the problem started. And in the midway, I also mentioned, I also say the same thing. So we are repeating the same thing for the last 10 months. It is that elections have come in between. And I was saying in my earlier editorial comment that this election has come as an anesthesia to the people of Manipur. Before a patient goes into the operation theater, he is, or rather the patient is subjected to an anesthesia. And now people of Manipur are now getting that dose of, very strong dose of anesthesia because of this election, and they have forgotten what the reality is and what is happening in Manipur. And it is very sad for us as a commentator or as a reporter to see the swing of mood of the people because of the elections. I think whatsoever the case is, the maturity, the political will, the political strength, and of course we are very proud of very deep-rooted culturally, traditionally, and spiritually. We are the indigenous people of the region, of this very state, son of the soil, or rather children of the soil, who are very confident, we are very proud of our roots. And somehow in these political dramas, many undesired events continue to unfold, for which I think our children, our next generations to come, will be blaming this present generation today. As I was saying the other day, that we will have students in the near future who would like to do a PhD of this very short period of this 12-month or 11-month drama in Manipur. I think this will be one of the most interesting subjects for some students to delve into what happened and how the system completely failed. I think, Amrita, it has been a very, very nice evening. I am right now in Dribuga. I have also now another conference to attend, and thank you for inviting me.
Sure, thank you for your time, Oja. Thank you for your message, for your comments. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so glad to see my brother Jinine and Oza also from Taiwan. Once in a while, we have this privilege of seeing each other, interacting vis-a-vis your channel. And lastly, I'd like to conclude, please go and perform your constitutional duty. Please exercise your franchise as a citizen of this very country. I think this would be my humble request. I am not a star for the Election Commission of India, where you have a banner with a thumbs up. I think I request everyone in Manipur to exercise their franchise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibungochoubi, for giving us your presence. And we will continue with our panelists for the remaining of the episode. So, so we have just heard from Oja Ibungochoubi that regarding these numbers, regarding the situation, the perspectives of old Manipur and everything. But in the last parliament, especially it was in the monsoon parliament probably, when the violence in Manipur was at its peak, the Home Minister in his statement has specifically mentioned Kuki infiltrators are causing this conflict in Manipur. And today in his speech, he said that they have scrapped the FMR and they have started to fence the border against the bordering state of Myanmar. So, as we have been discussing, that such a tragedy had to happen for the central leadership to have to take some notice regarding the border situation, the illegal infiltration in Manipur. But in his statement, he mentioned Kuki infiltrators specifically, and yet, do you think the free movement regime just scrapping is just because to control these Kuki infiltrators, or as our other panelist, Shantikumar, has mentioned, that this could also be related to this China influence over at Myanmar and the Myanmar conflict, because a lot of things are happening at the border, and they are, of course, taking that step to mend the country, to mend the integrity of the state of the country in the border. But so far, we have not seen any concrete steps that they have taken to root out these infiltrators, because Bangladesh have already been very strict about that. So what do you think that he was mentioned? Was it just another rhetoric for election?
Yes, that's maybe a rhetoric as well, and also that may be a tricky thing, because there are utterances, utterances from New Delhi, and their actions are very different, telling something and doing something else. And also, responsible leaders in New Delhi, they made statements that the happening in Manipur is because of the external kind of factors. But in real action, what they are doing is very much questionable, so it's tricky, and also, as you said, that's really kind of rhetoric thing. And this is continuation of the hypocrisy and human rights violation, because they are not doing any positive confidence building measures to end the happening right now in Manipur. So even they have taken up kind of a positive, affirmative that confidence building measures, for example, what happening, on the two national highways, that we are not, especially Meitei, are not able to move. So still, two highways remain unprotected. So that's an example of that confidence building measures. So we have to, look very carefully their utterances, their words, and their actions. So we have been witnessing that widening gap between actions and their words.
Yes,
so
in fact.
very questionable. Therefore, we Meitei people should understand, because the situation is very crucial. Our future is very, very much in a tragic line. So at the time of such kind of, that we have to practice our franchise voting rights very carefully. Otherwise, we will continue being trapped. And we should remember always that we are being trapped by New Delhi and some vested interested groups. Otherwise, we will continue fighting, between ourselves, and continue, that suffering from such kind of humiliation. So we must not allow, make ourselves the weakest. So yes, it is very important for the Meitei community as a stakeholder to understand the situation and to act accordingly.
Indeed, the Meitei people, or maybe the state of Manipur, to be self-reliant is the message that Oja Jinine was trying to give up. That because the cycle will continue, and because every 5 years there will be election, and the same things will be talked about in many different ways, and still there will be no solution until there is self-reliance with the people of Manipur. So indeed a very strong message. And on that note, I'd like to move on to Oja Shantikumar. Before we end, since our time is almost up, I'd like to ask you that this election, because we go to the polls on the 19th of April this week. So do you think the Modi magic that have worked so many times in the past, do you think it will work again the same way? Or do you think that the Manipur issue will be a thorn in his heel that will in fact affect his numbers to get a third term? Your take?
It is sad to say, but the truth is, people in my place, people in Manipur are very emotional. And it's hard to say if Modi's magic will be, successful or not. It's hard to say. But, considering the real situation we've been experiencing, the people of Manipur have been experiencing for the last 11 and more months, I think people should vote for those, candidates who can go and who can stand up there, who can pronounce, who can say out the people's will, people's opinions, and people's suffering, instead of just, influenced by Amit Shah's, rhetorical speech or Modi's statement, after 11 months, just a few words. People of Manipur should not be influenced by such rhetorical speech, by such emotional, statements or speech, and also by those, historical or previous, commitments the government have done or has done. Right now we have to think who would be the right person to go there, who can talk to the leader, who can talk inside the parliament, and who can face the media, especially the central medias. We need that kind of candidates to be sent to the center. Then only there will be some changes. Some changes can happen in these 5 years, coming 5 years. So my message, to end this discussion for myself, from my side, is, to select the candidate who can stand up and speak in Hindi or English very clearly what the people are thinking, and what he knows and what he can say boldly, bravely, standing on his own 2 feet. Number one, and number two, as I mentioned before also, he should be somebody who has the ability to express in English or Hindi, because he is not an MLA or a minister who is going to work in the context of Manipur. He's going to join the parliament, so he should be competent. He should be proficient in speaking and expressing in Hindi or English.
Yes, indeed.
Besides
Yes.
Manipuri.
Yes.
Then also he should be the candidate should be somebody that people feel he really loves Manipur, and he really respects the thinking of people's opinion. We have to choose somebody like that candidate. And the other one is, we have to choose a candidate who knows at least roundabout, at least basic. He should have the basic knowledge of Indian constitution and the basic laws he should know. Without knowing such things, he cannot open his mouth. He cannot talk about anything. And besides that, one last point is, he should also be a candidate who has some knowledge what is going on around in the northeast. Like, for example, in Myanmar, if he doesn't know anything about what is happening around the context in Manipur, around the surrounding areas, especially in the Southeast Asian countries, if he doesn't know anything, he doesn't have any knowledge about such things, also he cannot talk much. He cannot bring up issues to talk there. So these 4 or 5 points, they have to look to the candidate if they have these 4 or 5 qualities, these abilities, these qualities, this potential to the candidate, and they should vote to that kind of candidate, and not influenced by such rhetorical speech, or also not influenced by emotional context, emotional speech, or also not contact by money or muscle power. So
Yes.
I wish in this election, MP election, I hope the people of Manipur, my people, can think deeper and understand deeper, think twice before they choose the candidate. I would say this way.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for that message. And indeed, today's the topic was Amit Shah's visit to Manipur 11 months later, and also in context with the election, and also in context with the crisis in Manipur. So far, the speech that Amit Shah have given today to the people of Manipur was rather disappointing, because the people have been awaiting his visit and also a solution for the crisis. But this time, he could have said something to win the people of Manipur, something from his heart, rather than reciting some words that are not relevant to Manipur and the people of Manipur. But in fact, it has been said, and the panelists, the takeaway message from our 3 panelists from today is to remember of what all the sufferings that people of Manipur have faced in the past 10 to 11 months, and to exercise their franchise, their constitutional duties by remembering that, by putting all of that into account, and also that by coming out to vote will also be a message in their a message against the leaders, or a message or an exercise in their patriotic act for Manipur. So on that note, I would like to thank Oja Shantikumar and Oja Jinine Laishramcha for joining us today and for giving us such insightful comments regarding the election and everything else. So thank you so much for being there.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you.
I would also like to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. For more new exciting topics, we will return again next Monday, same time. Until then, have a good day.